Hi developers, in this tutorial we are going to be looking at how to create custom user model in Django, right? Just like we see here, right? So this user model will also manage your create super user command in your application, right? So if you can see, we have a print statement here. We have a print statement here. When we run this command, and you can see it's asking for phone number. When we run this command, let's enter a phone number here, enter our name, Hezekiah here, and enter our username, enter our password. So you can see we saw this command, this print statement here, super user created successfully, right? So we'll move over to our text editor now to see how it's done. The first thing obviously will be creating the project where you have the custom, where you want to use the custom user model, right? So here I have a project and I have the virtual environment activated here, right? So then you have to create the app that will house the user model, right? So I say Python manage py start app. Let's call this app user, right? So inside of this app, we'll have all the logics for our users, right? So we have the user model. In the view, we have all the logics, we have all the login, the logout, the maybe editing profile, etc. Right? So in the next tutorial, we will be looking at authentication views, custom authentication views, custom login, logout, and edit profile views, right? For the user, right? So, but for now, if we go to our models, right? So, inside this our model file here, this is where we want to create our custom user model, right? So, we need to import two things, two classes here. So, we say from Django.contrib.auth.base user, we import base user manager, right? Then from Django.contrib.auth.model, we import the abstract user. So if you check, if you look at this drop down now, we have two options here. We have the abstract base user and we have the abstract user, right? So the difference between both of them is that the abstract base user gives you absolute control over the fields in your user model, while the absolute user gives you the default models, comes with default models that Django comes with, right? So abstract based user will not have things like password, email, and date join already defined for you in the model. While the abstract user we have it defined for you. Then from there, you can add in other model, other fields that we want to, right? So if we import this abstract based user here, if we go to the class, right? Let me just bring this down. So if we go to this class right here, you see all these fields. You see username field, first name, last name, email, is staff, is active, right? So all those fields that Django comes with itself, all those fields that Django user model comes with, right? So we come with the abstract user. While the abstract based user will not have those fields, right? So for this tutorial, we'll be using the abstract user, right? So because like 9 times out of 100, you need the abstract user, right? So personally, I've not used the abstract based user, so I can't really teach on it. I've not used the abstract based user. I've not had a point where I use it in production environment, I'm telling you, right? So this is what is generally used even in Django documentation, right? Django official documentation. This is what is usually used, right? So if we come here, we now define two classes. We call this one user manager, and this one we inherit from the abstract user. Then we say, let's just add pass here. Then we define the user model itself, and this we inherit from the abstract user. Then we say pass here also, right? So in the user model, like I just mentioned, this will have all the fields that Django model comes with by default. It will have your email, your active, date join, password, username, etc. Right? So let's say now we also want to add another field, which is let's say phone number field, right? So let's say we want our user to specify their phone number also. So if I come here and say phone number, right? I'll say model your character field, right? After this, let's say for instance, we don't want this phone number to be null, right? So we can say null is equal to false. So let's say this phone number field is compulsory. Blank is equal to false. Then for character field, you obviously need the maximum length. Let's say the maximum length is 30 anything, right? Then after this, we need other fields, right? We need the username field and we also need the required field, right? So this username field is the field you want to use as the username, right? So the unique identifier, right? So Django, I think, is the username field that is obviously the username field. So we use username here, right? So for the username to be our unique identifier. If we want maybe the email to be the unique identifier, we say email. So by unique identifier, I mean the other fields you can log in with. Like when you want to log in, when the user wants to log in, you ask them for their email and their password, right? So if maybe you want to ask them for their username and their password, it will be username that will be there. If you want to ask them for their phone number, maybe you want to use phone number. So you say phone number here. Phone number, right? So when they want to log in, you expect them to enter their phone number and their password, right? So by default, this will be username, right? Which comes with Django by default, and I will leave it like that, right? So I can either sorry guys, I can either clean this up or I just leave it, right? So for that. Now the required field is a list of fields that you want to be compulsory, right? For instance, we want our phone number to be compulsory, right? So if we come here, we make it a list, we say phone number, right? So this phone number will be compulsory, right? So it's required. So the required field, we need it must be entered, right? So then under here we say object is equal to user manager, right? So this object is equal to user manager is simply used to connect this model here to this model. This is simply telling this model here that this model will serve as its manager, right? So the manager here will manage this model, right? So that's what this object is trying to say right here. I guess there are other theories behind this object, but basically that's what I understand it as, and that's what I'm explaining with that, right? So then in the base user manager, right? In our manager, we need two methods, right? So the first method will be create user, right? Let's add path here. The next method will be create super user, right? Let's also add path here. So what does the create user do and what does the create super user do? So the create user is for creating a normal user, while the create super user is for creating super users, just like the name implies, right? So when you come to your terminal and you say python manage.py create super user, it is this function that controls that, right? So why this function controls creating a normal user, right? So let's start from create user, right? So obviously this is a method in a class, so you need self. Then after self, we need those fields that we need to create a user. So we need an email field, the username field, the password field, and also the phone number field right now, right? So we say phone number, right? So we need the email field, the username field, the password field, and the phone number field. So let's make sure that these fields are passed in. Like these fields are passed in, so they are not null, right? So if we say if not email, right? So if email is not passed in, we raise the value error and say please enter an email, and email, right? So after that, let's just copy this down to other places if you want to use it, right? So this will be for username, enter your username. This will be for, let's say, for password, and this will be for your phone number, right? So all these fields are compulsory, right? So our messages here are probably wrong, but yeah, you get the gist, right? So after doing this, we now say, after doing this, right, we want to make sure, there is a way to make sure that our email is a normal email, right? So to do that, we use this self.normalize email. So it will something like pass your email, validate your email, and make sure that the email is a valid email, right? Before you can continue, right? So we do that. Then after this, right, we want to create the user. We say user is equal to self.model, right? We say self.model. And in self.model, this is just a reference to this user model here, right? So self.model want to create an instance of this model, which is a user. So we say username is equal to this username passed in, then email is equal to this email that was passed in, and phone number is equal to this phone number that was passed in, right? So we can also say password is equal to the password that was passed in, but you know that passwords are hashed. Passwords are not normal strings, right? So passwords are not normal strings, they are hashed strings, right? So in Django, we have a user.set password. So we say user.set password, user.set password, if I'm spelling it correctly, user.set password, then we pass in the password that we want to take on the user, right? So after that, we say user.save, right? We say user.save, then we return that user, right? So there is also, like, you know that in Django there are many fields, right? There are other fields here. We have the is admin, we have the is active, etc, right? So those fields we accept them as quags, right? If you know about quags in Python, you don't really have to know it, but that's what they are, extra fields, right? So extra field that comes in with the user field, right? So we pass in this extra field into this place. Like, so, and no, not like this, you have to add this after this, right? So we pass in the extra field that comes with the user model, right? Then after this is the creating user logic done for you, right? So after this, we also need the create super user, right? So we also need this argument here for the create super user. So we just copy that, copy this, come here and paste this, right? So for a super user, we need to specify some other things. So super user dot set default, right? So for a super user, there are some fields that need to be true, right? So if we go to this user model, this abstract based user model, so if we come here, for a super user, the staff needs to be true. If super also needs to be, if staff needs to be true, and if super also needs to be true. So if staff needs to be true and if super user also needs to be true. So we come here and set if staff and we set it to true, right? Then we copy this down. We say if super user is also true, right? So what else do we want to do? We want to create a user, right? So here we have the user created, right? So what we simply do is we say user is equal to self.create user, right? Then we pass in all these fields right here, right? So we just copy this and pass it in here, right? So what will this do? This will simply run the same process that it will run for normal user creation, right? It will run this same process right here, but it will set its super user to be true and its active also. is active is also true, right? So if you set the staff to be true, the super user to be true, and is active to be true, right? Then after that, we return user, right? So that is our user creation method done and our super user creation also done, right? So after this, next thing would be telling Django, you know that Django has a default user authentication model, right? So we'll go to our settings.py now and tell Django to specifically use this model right now. Because this model is just a simple model in our application, right? Django does not know it as our auth model, right? So let's just add the string representation here for simplicity's sake. So we say self.email, right? So we represent it to the email, right? So if we go to our settings.py, let's just come below here. I would say auth user model is equal to user, right? So what I was trying to say here, we are telling Django that for this project, right, that our user model, the authentication user model is found in the user's application and as a user model, right? So if you come to the user's application under the model, it will look for a model under the models.py file, it will look for a model class called user, right? So if you call this account, this will be account here, this class will be called account here, and this one will be called account here, right? So probably you get the gist, right? So if we save everything right now, come to our terminal, I'll come to my terminal, open it, let's run our migration, right? Let's run all our migration. Let's say make migration, right? So Python manage.py, I forgot the manage.py stupidly. Python manage.py. So this will make your migration so obviously. User model. So users that will refer to users that has not been installed. Sorry guys, we also need to install this application. You know how to install application in Django, right? So to come to our installed applications, I will add users here, right? So the error message is that we have this user model defined in our settings.py, right? But the user's application is not added in our installed application, right? So we simply add that. We come back here, we run the migration, fingers crossed. So the migration has been executed, have been created, right? So we have created the migration. So if we come to our migration right here and open this migration file, right? Let me bring my space down. So if we come to this user model, this migration that was created, you can see different fields here. You can see the fields we did not even specify. So we can see the ID field, the password field, last login, is super user, username, first name, last name, email, is staff, is active, etc. All these fields that were not specified. That was what I was trying to say, that when you inherit from this abstract user, right? When you inherit from this abstract user, it adds other fields to you, which comes by default in the Django default user authentication model, right? So that's it with that. Then we have our model created, we have run our migration. So let's run our migration to commit it to the database. Let's migrate, right? So this will push all our migrations, Django default migrations, and these are our migrations now to the database, right? So after that, for us to check if Django is really using this our model as the authentication model, let's come to this create user model. Let's come to this create super user here and say, let's print a message here and say, creating a super user instance, right? Whatever, right? So that if we run the Python manage.py create super user command and it prints out this, we know that Django is for real using this model as this model manager as our authentication model, right? So if you come here, we say Python manage.py create super. So if we say Python manage.py create super user, right? If we say create super user, it will ask us for our username, phone number, email, phone number, and our password and this confirmation. I think we have a problem somewhere, guys, because it should ask for our email. Let me just complete this and see. It should ask for our email. Okay, yes. It should ask for our email. So our error right here is just simple. In this required field right here, you know that email is compulsory. So in this required field here, we need to add the email, right, as a required field. So if you come here and add email, save this, fingers crossed, hopefully this time, let me clear this. So hopefully this time it works. So username, let me add the username, phone number, I just select the phone number, email, you can see our email right now, right? So that was what I was saying. 111@gmail.com. Password, select your password, then confirm the password. So you can see super user created successfully, right? So consider that for us. So if I start the application, let me Python manage.py run server. So if I start the application and go to the admin panel, right? So if I come to the admin panel right here, let's see if you can log in as the admin user we just created. Let's say admin. Right, so the username should be this, the password should be this, right? So you can see that we are logged in as an admin user, right? So that's really how you do. So in the next tutorial, we'll be looking at how you can create custom authentication view, like the registration view, the login view. I think after that we also look at creating user email activation views, right? So that when a user is created, you can activate their email and stuff like that. You know, all those fun stuff, right? So please guys, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe and like, comment, share. I'll also leave a link I'll push this code to Github, right? So that you can also access it and stuff like that. Right? So like, subscribe, please share this video with anyone you feel find this video important. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.